Welcome back to K&L Farms. I'm Ken. I hope this video finds you well. And on more than one of my videos so far, I've actually said reclaiming material, repurposing material. And the problem is, you got to be very careful with that, there's a fine line between becoming a hoarder and having some purpose for the material you're reclaiming. Now on this hot water heater, it's only a couple years old, so if you see the brand, disregard it. It's a piece of garbage, and it serves no purpose. I wouldn't buy it again. But this hot water heater started leaking after approximately 2 years of being in the house, and I'm going to go with this one, and the one that we actually purchased to replace this one. Okay. So the reason I like these, in both cases, is propane, but you can say they're gas heaters. But we went from a standalone, and I think these usually run, I've always thought that they run about 50 gallons, but I don't know that. I don't know how many gallons they actually have in them. But we went from this to an on-demand hot water heater, and there's pluses and minuses on both. And then we'll actually go over my generation would have done with this scrap hot water heater, what my dad would have done with this scrap hot water heater, and how my grandfather would have used this scrap hot water heater. Remember, this is scrap. I'm just trying to get some pieces off of it before I take it to the garbage dump, and that's where be careful, don't become a hoarder, but I think there's some value in this before I take it to the garbage dump, because it's only 2 years old. Okay, so let's go over this. The reason I prefer let's say 50-gallon tank is in my case, because I'm always kind of configuring my lifestyle towards off-grid. If the grid goes down, if we get in a bad situation. I'm not worried about hot water if we get in a bad situation, but this carries about 50 gallons. I think it's a 50-gallon tank. I'd have to research to find out if it is or isn't. I don't know. Of potable water. So on the bottom, I'll probably take a snapshot of the bottom. If grid goes down, if you're in a major city, you don't have utilities feeding. In my case, if I don't have the pump feeding, I could actually put a garden hose on the bottom fitting, run that into a container, and still consume water out of this container that would sustain life for a period of time. But this takes energy. You got a thermostat, which that's the piece that I'm trying to take off this unit. I want the thermostat and the burner out of it before I take it to the garbage dump. But in the other case, you don't have the well running to fill up the tank all the time, and as long as the thermostat is set on a certain temperature, hypothetically, let's say it's 100 degrees. This cools off, burner comes back on, heats it up to 100 degrees, shuts off back off as during the course of the day, as it'll cycle back and forth to keep that temperature. On demand, it will not do that. As soon as you go to utilize hot water, it'll start, well, I think they carry like 1.5 gallons of water. It'll take that water, it'll ignite, it'll heat up the water, and it's a 1-to-1. As soon as you need it, you got it. On these cases, you've always heating and cooling 50 gallons, but the reason I like these is I've got 50 gallons of potable water, non-pressurized, because I always thought that these were pressurized like an accumulator tank. They're not pressurized. They are, but it in like 5 minutes you don't have pressure through those. Okay, so that's the difference between this and an on-demand. We put an on-demand in replacement of this. The thing I'm trying to get out of here, which I think has value, is the thermostat and the burner and the igniter off this, which I might do later on in the video. But the difference between me and my dad would have been, as soon as he found out, now remember, I'm talking about my dad, there was no internet, there was no Home Depot, there was no Lowe's, there was no Facebook. So he would find out, somebody like me, at church or some activity, he would find out that their hot water heater went bad. And he would go to them and he would say, I would give you $5 for the hot water heater in lieu of taking to the garbage, and we'll take it away. And then he's targeting the tank in it. Now the tank in it would have been, in our case, would have always been, me and my brother would take all the parts off the back, take the tank down to the shop. He would cut it, he would split it down the middle, and that would be a feed trough for wet feed or grain. It was always, we would take, for the pigs, this was our feed trough. For the chickens, it had grain, feed trough. If you're going to grain cows, feed trough. Now the other thing he would do, it would be feed trough. It wouldn't be a water trough, because all of our water troughs, in fact, if you went back to the homestead that I started out on, or the first one I ever built, and remember I've been doing this for 40 years, you probably see two bathtubs, cast iron bathtubs on that property, because water was bathtubs and feed was hot water heaters. The difference between my dad and my grandfather, my dad would pay you cash, and no credit. We didn't have, when I was growing up, credit wasn't a thing, excluding when you went to buy your house. Mortgage on your house was, in fact, was on credit. Everything else was on a cash basis. My grandfather, the difference between my dad and my grandfather was barter. And I had an uncle, he's passed away he's probably been gone 10 years, and the uncle did it till the day he died. He would trade you something, and I always puzzled with the trading. Why would Grandpa trade? What was the big thing about trading, bartering? I'll give you, some canned goods, some canned pears, some canned peaches, some canned salmon for this hot water heater. They were trading all the time. Then I started realizing, well, we're getting taxed for the money we make, and then taxed again for the money we spend, which has already been taxed. And in my grandfather's day, nobody knew what he was doing. So he had some canned goods, or some canned venison or canned salmon or whatever he had that he got over the years. He had extra. He'd take you 3 cans of quart jars of canned salmon and trade you off. Nobody else knew it. There was no tax involved. That's why the barter system was so important for my grandfather, which has been totally lost here since, in my generation. Well, I guess when you say my generation, I'm talking about third generation, but I got kids and then I got grandkids, and since they've been doing all of that, I don't even think they understand how it used to be done, and I still can keep track of how it used to be done. Okay, so anyway, here in a little bit, I'm going to try and take that thermostat off there and that heater unit off there, and then I don't need the tank, because even when I was a kid, high school, the 70s, I always thought it was a lot of work to get a water trough off there. But remember, when I say a water trough, in my dad's case, they didn't have Rubbermaid, they didn't have galvanized. None of that exists. None of the feed. You go to the hardware, or excuse me, the feed store now, and there's all sorts of different ways to feed animals. None of that existed. It might have existed, but it wasn't out in the world that I was in. Anyway, that's the case. Asking yourself, what's he doing in the garage scrapping out an old hot water heater? So I'll give you a glimpse outside, what it actually looks like outside right now. And then the other thing I was going to tell you is this pressure relief. And remember, I'm only going after basically 3 things, and probably the most expensive pieces. But this pressure relief, I've had to buy twice in the last 5 years. So it'd be good on the homestead to have that. The other piece is I've actually got more hot water heaters that I can utilize that are a lot younger or older than this one. This one's fairly new, remember. And then I'll give you a little bit. I'm going to actually try and turn it off here if I can. Must be in the off position already. Okay, but I was going to tell you the difference between my dad's, because I've been kind of going over that, my dad's era and my era. So say you got a hot water heater like this one, the burner, the thermostat, and the pressure relief are only about 2 years old. And back when my dad was alive, of course, they didn't have eBay or any way to sell online, so we would take these items off. We would wait. In the summertime, we'd have a couple garage sales, and if my dad could make $10 a piece per item, he was saving money. But if you today, in today's lifestyle, if you take this apart, you put them on eBay, go on and find out what the full price for new is. Split the price in half, put it on eBay if you have an eBay account. If you don't, donated area, because these are worth some value, and that's why I'm stripping it. And then it'll be ready to go to the garbage dump. But let me get this valve off first, and then I got to get the burner out. Then I'm going to try and get the thermostat off. I don't know, I haven't determined why this one went bad. The tank went bad so rapidly, but these pieces are fairly expensive. And then remember, I bought 2 of these over the years. Let me put that over in the cabinet. And then, as you see, I'll probably shift the camera, but my bend over at my age doesn't work as well, so I'll flip it on the ground. And once I get it on the ground, then I can actually lean over and disassemble the other parts. Okay, let's try and get it tipped over a little bit. The floor has gotten iced over now, but this is the piece that I need to get apart first. Okay, got to disassemble the thermostat from the burner, and let's see if we can unplug that. Looks like a pilot. Just a quick connect, and then let's see if we can get this. It's actually the gas line. It might be an awkward spot. Nope, that's not going to work. I think that's left-handed. Yeah, first one wasn't, so I'm going to go with probably not, but let's try and get this one apart first. Let's go with I don't think so. I think it's just extremely tight. Okay, that one and that one. Okay, it is left-handed, which is odd, but okay. Remember, the gas line is left-handed. Okay, burner should come out of there, but I got the wrong tip on the driver. So let me go get that. 4 screws hold it in. And there you go. I don't know what this is worth. This is the pilot light igniters, but I don't know what that's worth. But as you see, it's virtually brand new. But set that aside for now with the screws. Okay, so let's see if we can get the thermostat off there. Well, the bottom tank's pretty well rusted, but I don't see it being leaky or not. Okay. And I would imagine this is right-handed, but it's not coming off there very easy. Shouldn't be that tight with that. It's got a brass flange below it. Nope. And it's tight. Okay, now that's ready to go to the dump. Okay, and it looks like this. This is all brass. Remember, it's got a couple connections. There's a wire connection. I don't know what that wire is. There's one, if not two, soldered right there. You need to be careful with that. And I don't know what this value is, but if you might leave down in the comments what you think this value is. But